loop.
So I was looking up different time travel stories, and there was a guy claiming his name was John Titor, Titor.
What?
Did you know
Like
about
Tittle?
this? No,
Oh, sorry.
not really.
Thought we were related.
No.
In another loop,
I don't know if
maybe.
you want to be related to this guy, but he, between 2000 and 2001, he was posting on some of those early bulletin board things on the internet and started making up this huge story about him being a time traveler from the year 2036, and he was on some military mission.
I feel like they always are.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's the hero of their own journey.
Yeah, and when you see these people, they're like the antithesis of what an action hero should be.
Right,
Let's
right,
just
right,
say
right.
that.
I was a super soldier.
Yeah, right. And
But
you,
I'm like 100 pounds soaking wet.
yeah, I guess to run around the shower to get wet. But yeah.
I got all the girls to do.
So, I mean, this guy started making like these crazy predictions, like there would be like a devastating civil war in 2008. Obviously, that didn't happen. Followed by...
I mean, I don't know. We could look that up. It could be somewhere else in the world. You know, Civil War can be one country.
Oh, this is in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Clearly.
specifically in the U.S.
Then no way.
And then there would be like a short nuclear war, and which was kind of sorry, not kicked off, but ended World War III, which was supposed to happen in 2015, and it was supposed to kill 3 billion people.
Thank God that didn't happen.
That didn't happen either. So I like
Unless
these
it is
huge,
happening and we don't even know.
Ooh.
Maybe it is
massive
happening.
predictions that
We
like,
are in a
never
bubble
come,
here.
never come true. But I particularly like there was a time traveler that came through. When was this? 2017, I think he came through, and he what did he call
came
himself?
through, meaning
called
he came through a portal, or
no, he came out in the tabloids, which is always like
The best.
the best. Yeah. So, but his predictions were far more like small and totally like reasonable. Like he was saying stuff like, everyone would be wearing Google glasses. This guy called himself Noah. I don't know that was his name.
Ooh,
And he released a couple of videos.
good time traveling name.
Yeah, he was Noah, and he was from the year 2030, and he said it was all like time travel was a common thing, but he was sent back here, or he came back into this time, 2017, and they fired him. He didn't really go into details of what that meant. The people in the future fired him, so now he's stuck here. And he was like, you see videos of him online, and he's like,
because he got fired?
yeah, he's all emotional and he's like crying through it.
I don't want to be stuck here in this
I can't really
timeline.
tell if it's like an act or not, but because it's like the voices, changed and he's like blurred out and you can't see him. That's what I thought you were talking about to begin with. It was this guy, but maybe not.
Dinosaur Man? No.
But his predictions were like, yeah, everyone would be wearing like Google glasses, which is totally plausible. That could possibly happen. And then like...
But that's already happening.
Yeah, but everyone would have it by this time, 2030. And then, like, self-driving, driverless cars would be, like, a huge thing. Everyone would be having of those cars. No one would be driving by themselves.
Well, somebody at our office already has one.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Can't say on the podcast, but
Yeah, interesting.
they can do their emails on the way to the office.
Cool.
Wow.
All right.
I want one.
I'm going to try one of those.
I don't. That sounds scary.
AI and virtual reality would be a huge thing in the future. Renewable energy would be a massive thing. And he also, his big prediction...
I'll predict that right now. Like,
yeah. And he was also saying, like, aliens and humans would live, like, coexist side by side, and it would be, like, this huge nirvana of loving and...
Oh, okay. Well, now you
Space
lost
Brothers.
me.
See,
You
I
lost
just-
me.
I
But his big one...
okay, here we
Was
go.
it-
Okay, all right.
Well, that's not a big one.
Okay.
But
Bigfoot.
he just said that...
In the right lighting.
one of these ones that could... that seem like one of the... Like, too big. Or maybe it will happen, but he said Trump will get a second term in 2020.
All right, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, so we'll see if he's right. I don't want to get too political here, but
Yeah, don't get political.
we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
That's not in this time
That
loop.
guy sounds like a snake oilsman. Wait,
Snake oilsman?
what the hell did I just say?
Yeah, no, that works. I agree
All
with
right,
that.
I'm going
yeah,
with it.
snake oil salesman? Yeah.
What else you got?
But yeah, I know. I was just like, as soon as these guys start making predictions is where they kind of like flail,
Right.
'Cause
Sure, yeah.
9 times out of 10 that it doesn't happen.
But that
Especially if
guy's,
it's, like,
they
big
weren't too
things.
bad.
No,
You know?
that's what I'm saying.
Except for
Keep
the
it
aliens and
short.
humans are going to live side by side and hold hands
Right.
and go to picnics and stuff
Yeah,
together.
I can
Yeah.
believe
Keep
I
it
can get behind a
reasonable.
prophet like that. What a time travelers,
Yeah.
really. They're like prophet wannabes. They're coming back,
Basically,
making
yeah.
predictions, trying to become hot
Right.
shit, you know?
Yeah.
Number one, banana.
But the thing is that there's this desire, our human desire for time travel, to understand it, that it's real.
Yeah,
it's
I agree
like
with that.
written in so many sci-fi movies. It's like guys like Ron Mallett who are literally getting funded to see if his time travel idea device will work. There's tons of other physicists that are questioning the same kinds of things out there and trying to understand our universe a little bit better. So it's like an obsession. I mean, even if you go to places like Chaco Canyon in the American Southwest, they have these kind of like cylinder, what do you call them? Like it looks like a portal. Right? They have these like pictographs all over the place, like very ancient pictographs in Chaco Canyon with these kind of like portal looking things. So, of course, everyone's like, oh, they were into time travel.
That must be what it is.
They must be what it is,
Clearly.
right? Clearly.
Yeah.
So it's this idea that either ancient people knew about time travel and we forgot, or we can do it, but we don't know how to do it, or we're supposed to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like something we can't get out of our own consciousness.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
we're obsessed
I
with
don't-
the fact
like-
that it's possible.
I don't mind that we're looking into it as a way to kind of understand the universe a little better, but I think
Is it just about mortality, though?
maybe, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. But I think I just doing it as if you can do it, it's one of those things. If we can do it, does that mean we should? Like, the possibility for shit going awry.
Like the grandfather paradox, where you go back in time and kill your grandfather so you don't exist.
Yeah.
The
Is that
idea
just-
that-
what
is that
happens
just
if
bad
the-
80s movies, though? Like, you saw Avengers 3.
yeah, but that's
Yeah.
literally if you
They save the world, man.
Yeah, man. They go back. Doesn't change the future. It's a different timeline. It's a
But
different
what happens
bubble.
if
I don't
someone
know.
It's a
goes
different
back and
loop.
changes the Berenstain Bears to the Berenstein Bears?
They're
Wow.
just a-
And then
they're
we're
just
all,
an
that's
a-hole.
and then
the-
we're
Messing with
just
us.
like,
They're a trickster.
everyone's like fucked up then.
That's that whole butterfly,
The Mandela effect.
yeah, the Mandela effect. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when we get back from the break, I want to break down 4 different types of potential time travel.
Yes.
And
Do
also a crazy, awesome story about a time travel device created by a Vatican father named Pellegrino Ernetti.
Lovely accent.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back.
1 egg a day.
Woo! Nice.
It's good for
All right,
you.
first thing I want to break down is the different types of potential time travel that I researched either from Project Pegasus or the interwebs. First one, remote viewing.
Ooh.
As we
Wait,
all know from... Oh, what are you going to say?
I was just going to say, can you explain remote viewing?
Of course I can. Remote viewing is the ability to see remote places in time through your mind's eye. The ability to visualize another place in anywhere in the world or anywhere in the universe, actually.
Like
Okay.
actual coordinates.
Actual coordinates. The process of that is complicated. The people who end up doing it are given blind coordinates. They don't even know what they're looking at, and they have someone who helps them, and they end up drawing it on a piece of paper. It's a whole thing. But if you watch the movie Third Eye Spies, they go into remote viewing, and there was a government program that really studied this, and it really worked.
Men hysteric
That's
goats.
that's a different
Yeah.
conversation, but in remote viewing is not just seeing places in your current timeline, it's also seeing things in the past and future. They have several examples of people seeing something and not being right at all, and then like 20 years later they look at the drawing and it looks exactly like the spot does today. So they just were in the
Right.
future or the
Yeah.
past.
They were too far or too far back, yeah.
So that's one version of time travel. I mean, technically you're seeing the past or future.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
The second one is the Montauk chair, which is from Project Pegasus and from Montauk Project and from Stranger Things. It's technology assisted remote viewing, magnetic transducer that affects human consciousness. And what it does is it helps you project your mind into the future. It just makes remote viewing really easy. The device, I don't have much information on it other than it's a chair and it has a
Wait,
lot of science in
that's
it.
really sorry to interject with all my ancient BS, but it's really interesting because you think about all the pharaohs with us. They had like a certain chair that was filled with like crystals and gold. It was also
Huh.
a transducent
Really?
for meditation. So
And-
it's almost like the same
Oh,
kind of idea
so-
as the
so
Montauk
it's
chair.
really- Yeah,
and when they
okay.
use psychedelics a lot too.
Yep.
And they would, yeah.
Well, they not like the psychedelics we have here. They would take lotus flower and soak it in wine overnight, and then when you drink it,
and probably sit in that chair and then
they go crazy.
and
they
see into the future, and
Mm-hmm.
then become prophets. No, that's super interesting. like Basago from Project Pegasus at one point saw himself as a lawyer in Seattle, and then eventually was a lawyer in Seattle. I don't know if that's.
And he also saw himself as president too, or vice president. Yeah.
Oh man, we're all gonna be eating one egg a day.
One egg a day.
I gave up.
He predicted that he was going to be president. Yeah.
The third type of way of time traveling is a teleportation device. Classic, what you'd see, a Stargate, some sort of crazy machine.
Traveling at 88 miles per hour.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yep.
Towards the
All
speed
that
of
stuff.
light.
That stuff, which
jump
Basago
room.
also says exists, and a lot of that technology supposedly came from Tesla and his stolen papers from his apartment in the 40s.
Ooh.
They were confiscated by the government.
Right.
And if there's any technology out there and you want people to believe in it, just say it came from Tesla, and
Yeah.
like immediately
The
it's
Tesla
credible.
papers.
You're
I
like,
mean,
"Oh, that guy must have
you
figured
can't
it out."
argue that.
Yeah, such a powerful mustache. All right, and the fourth one, which is going to be a jumping off point into a cool story, and this is what Basago talks about a lot in his books and his podcasts and stuff. It's basically time travel cinema, where you render holograms of past events and you become a spectral presence or a ghost in that timeline. It's a lot easier for kids to do it for some reason. This leads into like why kids kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden you'd be present. It's all in a lab, but you step into it and all of a sudden you're somewhere else in some distant time. So some ghost stories, the ones that are just like one-off where someone saw some crazy thing for a second, not the repeated ghost stories or poltergeist activity, might be this. It might be someone just using this hologram device and popping into a different timeline basically as their astral form kind of
Is that what he's saying he was in that photo?
No, I think in that one he used a teleportation device, like
He
flat
actually
out.
Yeah,
physically
that wasn't a
traveled
hologram.
Flat out body, yeah, because he interacted with people and stuff. He wasn't a ghost.
Yeah.
So they call this. He ended up calling these people who did this in the time travel cinema as chronovisors. And I was like, that's an interesting term, right? It's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. But what it led me to research, I started doing some research on that word, and there's a whole book and multiple books about a Catholic priest called Father Pellegrino Ernetti, who I mentioned in the beginning, and the chronovisor is basically a time viewer. It's similar to the hologram device that I just explained, but different. And I'll get into more details of it in a second, but basically this is just like a TV. So instead of like a three-dimensional hologram that you step into and you can kind of see in the past, which is cooler and visually awesome, this was like a TV you watched, and somehow you could tune it to different places in time.
Well, that makes sense because everything's a frequency. Everything has like a certain register in the universe.
Yeah.
That would make sense. You just need to be into the right time loop.
Right.
Wait, is Basago legit? Is that what we're saying?
No, well
Hey, eggs are not bad.
His story is
Calm down.
correlated.
Does he own a chicken farm?
His story is corroborated. Kind of, but it's a different machine. So that's what's weird about this. It's this classic, like, one person heard the other person's story and then kind of made their own thing up. Anyways, this father was a legitimate, highly respected man. He was not a wingnut at all his whole life.
So he's literally in the basement of the Vatican figuring out a time device.
He's also a scientist, and it gets even more interesting.
That's so cool.
So what happened was he met another guy named Father Francis Brune, and they met at one point, and quickly Brune found out that Ernetti was working on this time device, and he was immediately interested. Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And how did you come across this? So before they get into building it, basically, this is what happened. Ernetti was working with another scientist, at the Catholic University of Milan, trying to filter harmonics out of these Gregorian chants. When they heard the voice of the other scientist, not Ernetti's late father, they heard the voice of someone who died speaking to them through a recorder. And later, that scientist confirmed that incident. So not Ernetti, the other guy he was working with. There's too many Italian names I can't pronounce. That guy confirmed this. And so he was like, whoa.
I kind of want to hear you pronounce these, actually.
I can't. I'm terrible. So this got Ernetti thinking about what happened to all the sights and sounds humans make. Do they disappear completely, or do they continue to exist in some way? Ernetti approached some scientists and assembled a super team of scientists to work on the project. The group included a bunch of big names, including one of our favorite names who gets tied to a lot of crazy shit, is Werner von Braun. So
tell everybody who Werner von Braun is, because some
Project
people might not know.
Paperclip.
You want to break it down quick?
Nazi scientists brought over to the US through Project Paperclip, and was one of the founders of NASA.
One of the founders of NASA, and connected to a lot of weird programs.
Yeah, he got us
what was
to the
the
moon.
rocket that he made? The fucking...
Well, he took the V2
V2,
rockets
yeah.
that were confiscated from the Nazis
Right.
and used them to get to the moon, and we still use them today.
Yeah.
Right on.
which is a different program altogether. Why are we still using technology from 1950?
Right.
It's
Oh
cool.
yeah, we already had zero
Anyway,
point energy.
for a different
Yeah, it's
show.
a different show. But Werner von Braun is like Tesla, though. He's like a guy like you just attach him to anything. And you're like, could happen if he's there. Time
Yeah.
travel's
There.
possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So they built a chronovisor, and they built it so they could tune it to any time or place. They observed the crucifixion of Christ, and a picture of this. Supposedly, they took a picture of it through the TV, and it was on and it ended up being on an Italian magazine, which
Oh, I've seen that photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.